In case you didn't know, I have a degree in Rhetoric and Discourse. This is just a fancy name for an English degree. What this means is that I'm well trained in overanalyzing English literature. Today, I'm going to use the one skill I learned in college to review Eric Dubay's latest Flat Earth children's book. Fuck, what am I doing with my life?
He is coming. Cover your butt.
What is the Earth plane? The Earth plane is Eric Dubay's latest attempt to make the flat Earth seem like a genuine issue and not just a way for him to con people out of money. The Earth plane is advertised as a children's book. According to the description, the Earth plane is a full-color illustrated science adventure story that follows a young boy and his grandfather through a series of scientific experiments and expeditions, ending in an incredible discovery that our world is not at all what we have been taught. Well, I'm here to tell you that the book doesn't even measure up to its own description. Putting aside all the incorrect science, the misunderstandings of basic concepts, and the outright lies in this book, the Earth plane is not even good at what it sets out to do. For $30 plus shipping and handling, you can have this beautiful hardcover book. According to Lulu.com, a 52-page hardcover book like this one cost around $12.20 to print. That means that nearly 60% of the book's cost goes straight to Dubay. This is an outrageous amount of money. Consider that in traditional publishing, the author of a book will only see roughly 10% of a book's sales. I'm sure Dubay will pay the artist for his work as well, but even then, this is a very steep price for a book. Now, I bring this up not just to point out Eric Dubay's greed, but also bring attention to how the price will affect the goal of his book. At even $10 less, Dubay would be taking in 26% of the book sales. Half of this could go to the artist, and the other half could go to Dubay, and Dubay would still be earning roughly the same amount as a traditional author. But more importantly, this book would be more easily accessible and would spread in the way that Dubay pretends he wants his book to be spread. Because of his greed, Dubay's book will not be as widely accessible as he claims he wants it to be. At this price range, even a real science book for kids would be overpriced. A quick glance through Amazon and you'll see books at a more reasonable price. This book is more of a novelty, something a dumbass YouTuber might buy in order to gather his friends and read it on a live stream. As for the quality of the book, to be honest, the book is high quality. The pictures in the book look great, and the printing does capture the watercolor style used by the artist. The artwork itself is also not bad. It has a childlike quality, with colors often not reaching the lines or bleeding past them. Overall, the printing company and the artist did a great job on this book. It's in the writing that things start to fall apart. The structure of the book starts to give us a hint as to why this is such a poorly written piece of fiction. Each page fold has a block of text and a picture. The block of text is rather dense and is written in a style that is more appropriate for a 5th or 6th grader. For comparison, here's a kid's book of a solar system. The text is much larger and the words are often placed within the pictures to both help label parts of the image and encourage kids to explore the images. The centric structure is also simpler, where the Earth plane will have long sentences separated with commas. A more traditional science book aimed at children will have shorter sentences. Overall, the text reads more like a list rather than a story. Each page is just another part of that list. And, well, that's because that's exactly what this is. The Earth plane is just a lazy rewrite of Eric Dubay's other book, 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. And in many cases, it's not even rewritten, but simply copied from Dubay's other book. For demonstration, here is an excerpt from the Earth plane. Ship captains in navigating great distances at sea never need to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their calculation. Both plain sailing and great circle sailing, the most popular navigation methods, use plane, not spherical trigonometry, making all mathematical calculations on the assumption that the oceans are completely flat. If the Earth were in fact a sphere, such an errant assumption would lead to the constant glaring inaccuracies. But in fact, plane navigation methods have worked perfectly in theory and practice for thousands of years. And here is the corresponding proof From 200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball. Proof 34. Ship captains in navigating great distances at sea never need to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their calculations. Both plain sailing and great circle sailing, the most popular navigation method, use both plane, not spherical trigonometry, making all mathematical calculations on the assumption that the Earth is perfectly flat. If the Earth were in fact a sphere, such an errant assumption would lead to constant glaring inaccuracies. Plain sailing has worked perfectly fine in both theory and practice for thousands of years. As you can see, this is the exact same text as Eric Dubay's old book. It's not even a rewrite in order to make it more child-friendly, or to make the concepts easier to understand. It's just the same text copy and pasted. Dubay's laziness cost this book its gimmick. The Earth plane has text blocks that are written for adults and images that are designed to entice children. The book is confused about what it wants to do. On the one hand, text blocks are dense and uninviting to children. The images truly sell this book as a kid's book, which will discourage adults from buying or reading it on their own. This book has an identity crisis, and is one of the many reasons it fails at simply being a book. There is no plot. This isn't an adventure book as the description would have you believe. There is a kind of story, but it doesn't actually occur until the second to last page. The whole story unfolds in the last 2 pages, and spoiler alert for a Flat Earth kids book, I guess, Eric Dubay is the protagonist. On the second to last page, Grandpa and Eric try to head south of the South Pole to the undiscovered lands. I kid you not, during this daring attempt to make it south, the government shows up and tries to stop the duo. Grandpa tries his best to outmaneuver the government jets, but they start firing warning shots, and with a tear in his eyes, Grandpa decides to land the plane rather than risk his grandson's life. If this isn't over the top enough for you yet, on the next paragraph, Grandpa explains that Eric's parents were maybe killed by the government. Out of nowhere, it is revealed that Eric is an orphan, and that his grandpa and grandma have been the ones raising him. It is also revealed that Grandpa once tried the same stunt while flying with Eric's parents. And while it's not outright stated, it's insinuated that Eric's parents were killed by the government. This really comes out of nowhere. There has to this point been no mention of Eric's parents. There's been no foreshadowing. There's been nothing. Bam! Dead parents, killed by the government on the second to last page of the book. This also brings into question Eric's parents. Eric's parents took off on a plane to Antarctica without him. Hell, his grandparents took off without him too. They were planning on leaving the flat Earth without him. What a bunch of dicks! If you are thinking to yourself, there is no way this book can go any more off the rails, you would be wrong. The last page of the book, I kid you not, is Eric Dubay just masturbating to himself. He talks about that fateful flight 30 years ago, and how many people he has converted to the flat Earth. He talks about all of his work on blogs and social medias, creating websites and videos and posting pictures. He even talks about how he wrote a book called The Earth Plane. The last page is not part of the story. It is simply Eric Dubay expounding of all the great things that he has done for the Flat Earth movement. Like I demonstrated earlier, this book is just a list of proofs, and these proofs are not written in an engaging, entertaining, or more importantly, in a fun way for children to read. This book even fails at the very basics of storytelling. The book revolves around 3 main characters. The nameless main character, who as it turns out, is Eric Dubay himself. Typically, in a propaganda piece like this, the main character would represent the reader, often having little to no knowledge on the topic. Think of the main characters in Chick Tracts, or the main character in God's Not Dead. Actually, think of this book as a poorly written and less entertaining version of God's Not Dead. Unlike those much better written characters, I can't believe I just complimented the writing in Chick Tracts, the main character here is already knowledgeable on the topic. This means the main character never grows, never changes, or even has his beliefs questioned. Usually, in these kinds of story, the main character will start off ignorant and then grow as a character by learning more about whatever nonsense the writer is promoting. What ends up happening in this particular book is that the main character ends up being useless. His role could have easily just been replaced with the grandpa character. Speaking of the grandpa, this is a character that is supposed to provide wisdom to the main character. He is the one teaching the main character about the flat earth. Grandpa serves his purpose well. Grandpa seemingly owns every piece of equipment necessary at the right time. He owns a digital camera with a telescopic lens. He owns a telescope. He owns surveying equipment. He conveniently has everything needed for the experiments presented in the book. Finally, there's Professor Snape. Professor Radisson. No, Mr. Tyson, the teacher. He is written like every good propaganda antagonist. Mr. Tyson is a not-so-clever reference to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and is meant to represent the skeptic scientific community that fights against the truth of the flat earth. He's unnecessarily dickish to the main character, considering that the main character is both a child and Mr. Tyson's student. Mr. Tyson openly mocks the main character and laughs at him in the middle of class. Mr. Tyson is also easily stumped by the main character's childish counter-arguments. Altogether, we have a sloppy version of what should have been an adequate propaganda book. The lack of a main character that changes his mind at the end after seeing the truth really hurts this book. The main character never changes, never wavers, never learns. There is no reason for him to embark on this journey since he gains nothing from it. Also, there's no journey since this is just a list of flat earth claims. There is nothing compelling you to actually read the story. It's just a block of text after block of text. The sloppy writing makes this book an absolute chore to get through, and even for someone like me that went into it with low expectations, I was disappointed. There was a couple of times I burst out laughing, but I don't think it was the intention of the author for me to laugh. But even the moments of cringe were few and far between, and it just devolved into a 52-page list of flat earth vomit. I don't usually talk at the end of videos, so here's a picture of Hobbs being cute to help this section go by. This is not my usual style of video, but I have been wanting to talk about books for a while. Like I said at the beginning, I have an English degree, so I spend quite a bit of time reading, and I would like to do more videos like these where I talk about books for a change. If you like this style and like the idea of more book reviews, give the video a like and leave a comment. If this isn't your cup of tea, go check out one of my other videos. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. See you all next time.